All right, so today we're taking a deep dive into DeFi.
Diff AI.
Yeah, decentralized finance,
Right. Yeah.
but powered by AI agents.
AI agents are really changing the game.
Yeah, it seems like everyone's trying to figure this out.
Absolutely.
Like, what's the big deal with AI agents in DeFi?
Yeah.
Which projects are really leading the charge?
Uh-huh.
And should I even care about this?
That's the big question.
Yeah, is this something I need to be paying attention to?
Well, we've got some insights from Bankless and GitHub.
Yeah, those are really interesting sources.
So we're going to break it all down for you.
Cool, let's jump in.
Okay, so first things first, the speed of evolution in this space is mind-blowing.
Yeah, it seems like just yesterday we were talking about the basic, infrastructure.
Right, just the groundwork?
And now we're seeing, full-blown applications built on these AI agents.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's not just about, automating simple tasks anymore.
No, it's way beyond that.
It's about building entire systems.
Yeah, the Bankless article talked about on-chain agents, moving from just, posting tweets
Which was kind of the early thing.
to actually, running entire investment DAOs.
Yeah. I remember when that was like a theoretical concept,
Yeah, it seems so far off.
but it's happening now.
It's wild.
So how does that actually work?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
An AI agent could be analyzing market data nonstop,
Okay.
identifying trends,
Uh-huh.
and then it could propose investment strategies to the DAO members.
And then they would vote.
Exactly.
Well, that's interesting.
It could really streamline decision-making.
Yeah, and maybe even reduce some biases.
Potentially.
Okay, so before we get too far ahead,
Sure.
can you walk us through the evolution of these DAI agents?
Of course. So, in the early days,
Yeah.
they were pretty basic.
Like what could they do?
They were specialized tools
Okay.
designed for one specific task,
Give me an example.
like a simple trading bot.
Okay.
It would execute a trade when a certain token hit a specific price point.
Okay. Got it.
They were helpful,
Yeah.
but limited. Right.
Then we started seeing agents that could handle multiple tasks.
So they were getting smarter.
Yeah, more sophisticated.
But they were still operating within a set of rules, right?
Exactly.
So what changed?
Well, now we're seeing the emergence of agents that can actually learn and adapt.
Whoa.
Yeah, the whole new level.
So these are the ones that can run entire DeFi applications.
Exactly. They make decisions in real time based on the market.
So no more pre-programmed instructions?
Not really. They're learning as they go.
That's pretty incredible. Now, Bankless mentioned Fetch.ai
Yes.
as a big player in this space.
They're doing some really interesting things.
What makes them stand out?
Well, they're building an entire ecosystem for AI agents in DeFi.
Okay, so not just focused on one application.
Right. It's bigger than that.
More like the foundation for other DeFi projects.
That's a good way to put it.
So how do they do that? What's their approach?
They've created this modular tech stack.
Modular.
Yeah, like building blocks for AI agents.
Oh, that's cool.
It lets developers create really sophisticated systems much faster.
Okay, break that down for me. What are these building blocks?
Sure. So there are three main components.
Okay,
First, you have the AI engine.
what's that?
I think of it like the brain.
Okay, the control center.
Yeah, it coordinates the actions of all the different agents.
Got it. What's the second component?
The agent's framework.
What does that do?
It provides the tools and pre-built modules for actually building these agents.
So a toolkit for developers.
Exactly.
Okay, and the third piece,
The Agentverse.
Agentverse. That sounds cool.
It's the platform where all these agents are deployed.
So they can interact with each other.
Yes, and with the whole DeFi ecosystem.
So it's like a platform for building, deploying, and connecting these AI agents.
You got it.
All within the DeFi world.
Precisely.
That's pretty amazing. Can you give me a concrete example of how this modularity works?
Okay, so let's say you're a developer
Okay.
and you want to create an agent that finds arbitrage opportunities.
Yeah.
So it analyzes on-chain data.
Makes sense.
Now, instead of building everything from scratch,
Yeah, that would take forever.
you can use Fetch.ai's pre-built modules.
Oh, so there are modules for data retrieval and analysis?
Exactly. And even trade execution.
That's really efficient, right?
You could save weeks or even months of development time.
Wow. So Fetch.ai is really trying to streamline this whole process of
Yeah.
building and deploying these agents.
It's a game changer.
It sounds like, okay, so we've talked a lot about DeFi,
Yeah.
but I think it's important to zoom out a bit and look at AI agents more broadly.
Sure.
The GitHub blog had some really good insights on this.
Yeah, they did.
So what are the key things that make AI agents different from something like a simple chatbot?
Well, GitHub highlights three core characteristics:
Okay, hit me with them.
planning, memory, and tool use.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break those down for me.
So planning means the agent can actually think ahead.
Really?
Yeah, it can break down a complex task into smaller steps, anticipate potential problems.
So it's not just reacting to commands?
No, it's thinking
Yeah.
strategically.
Wow, that's impressive.
Right.
Okay, what about memory? How does an AI agent actually remember things?
Well, memory is crucial for learning and improvement.
Right?
It's like a bank of experience.
Uh-huh.
The agent stores past interactions outcomes,
Okay.
the steps it took to achieve a goal.
And it uses that to get better.
Exactly. It refines its approach for the future.
So it's constantly learning and getting smarter.
That's the idea.
Okay, and the last one, tool use.
Right.
What kind of tools are we talking about here?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
AI agents can access and use external tools and data sources.
Like what?
It could be anything from pulling real-time market data
Okay.
to interacting with other AI agents to complete a complex task.
So they can collaborate.
Exactly.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
Right.
It feels like we're on the verge of a real shift in how we interact with finance.
I think so.
But before we go any further, I want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay.
Can you quickly explain what a smart contract is?
Absolutely. A smart contract is basically a self-executing agreement
Okay.
written in code
Uh-huh.
and stored on a blockchain.
So it's like a digital vending machine.
That's a good analogy.
You put in your cryptocurrency,
Right.
select what you want,
Which is like executing a function in the contract,
and then boom, the machine dispenses your item.
which could be like transferring tokens.
Or performing some other action.
Exactly.
And the rules are all transparent and can't be changed.
Exactly. Immutable.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's a way to automate agreements and transactions
Right.
without needing a middleman.
Precisely.
That's pretty powerful.
It is.
Okay, so back to the GitHub blog.
Yeah.
They also talked about some of the challenges
Right.
developers face when they're building these AI agents.
It's not all smooth sailing.
What are some of the hurdles?
Well, one of the biggest is predictability and explainability.
What do you mean?
So with these really complex AI models,
Yeah.
it can be tough to understand how they reach their
I
decisions.
was like, you don't know why they're doing what they're doing.
Right. It's like a black box.
Oh, that's not good, especially in finance.
No trust is paramount in finance.
Yeah, you got to know why your money is being moved around.
Right.
So are there ways to make these AI models more transparent?
There's a lot of research going on in that area.
Like what?
Well, some researchers are trying to create models that can generate explanations for their decisions.
Oh, so you can see their reasoning?
Yeah, like a trail you can follow.
That would be helpful.
Others are focusing on simpler models
Okay.
that are easier to understand and audit.
So it's like a trade-off.
Yeah.
You want the power and sophistication,
Uh-huh.
but you also need transparency.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a balancing act.
It sounds like it. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
But I think it's important to step back
Yeah.
and look at the bigger picture. What are some of the advantages that DeFi offers?
Oh, there are many.
Like, what should people be aware of?
Well, one of the main goals of DeFi
Yeah,
is to create a more inclusive financial system.
that's a good thing.
It is. Traditional finance often excludes people.
Like who?
People without access to banking services.
Oh.
Or those considered high-risk borrowers.
So DeFi removes those barriers.
Exactly. Anyone with an internet connection can participate.
That's powerful.
It is. Imagine someone in a rural community.
Okay.
They don't have a bank account,
Right.
but they can use a DeFi platform to access loans and other financial services.
Just using their phone.
Exactly.
That's amazing. So it gives people more control over their finances.
It does.
What other advantages are there?
Well, another big one is transparency.
Okay.
Since DeFi runs on public blockchains,
Mm-hmm.
all transactions are recorded and verifiable.
So anyone can see what's happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It creates a level of transparency that you just don't get with traditional finance.
That could really build trust,
I think so.
especially after all the scandals we've seen.
And the lack of accountability
Right. It's like you can finally see where your money is going.
and how it's being used.
Okay. What else?
DeFi can also be much more efficient.
How so?
It automates a lot of the slow and costly processes.
Okay.
So you get faster transactions, lower fees,
That's always good.
and a more streamlined experience.
Give me an example.
Think about cross-border payments.
Okay.
Using traditional methods can be a nightmare.
Yes, low and expensive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But with DeFi, those transactions can happen in minutes
Wow.
with much lower fees.
That's a huge difference.
It is.
So DeFi is about accessibility, transparency, and efficiency.
That's a good summary.
But I think we need to move beyond the technical details
Okay.
and see how this is actually being used in the real world.
All right, let's get practical.
Can you give me some examples of how Diff AI is being applied today?
Sure, one example is lending and borrowing.
Okay, like how?
Def AI platforms allow people to borrow and lend cryptocurrencies.
Without needing a bank.
Exactly, it's peer-to-peer.
That's interesting.
And studies have shown that the interest rates on these Def AI platforms
Yeah,
are often much lower than traditional banks,
really.
especially for people in developing countries.
That's incredible. It could be a game changer for them.
It could.
Okay.
What decentralized exchanges or DEXs,
Okay.
they let users trade cryptocurrencies directly with each other.
Without a centralized exchange.
Right.
So more privacy and security.
And more control over your assets.
That's appealing to a lot of people.
It is.
Any other interesting Diff AI applications you've come across?
Oh, there are so many exciting things happening.
Like what?
One area that I'm particularly interested in
Yeah,
is using AI agents for portfolio management.
like a robo-advisor.
Kinda, but more sophisticated.
Okay, I'm listening.
Imagine an AI agent that constantly monitors the market,
Uh-huh.
adjusts your portfolio,
Okay.
and even spots new investment opportunities.
Oh, it's like having a personal financial advisor.
That's the idea.
But one that never sleeps.
Exactly.
That's pretty powerful.
It is.
But earlier we talked about the black box problem
Right.
with AI agents.
The lack of transparency.
Yeah. What other challenges do you think Diff AI needs to overcome?
Well, security is a big one.
In what way?
Diff AI applications often use complex smart contracts,
Right.
and those can be vulnerable to bugs and exploits.
So they can be hacked.
They can. We've already seen some high-profile hacks
Oh, wow.
and scams in the Diff AI space.
So it's still a bit of a Wild West.
In some ways it is.
So what can developers do to make these applications more secure?
Well, thorough code audits are essential.
To find and fix vulnerabilities?
Exactly. And there are also formal verification techniques.
What are those?
They use math to prove the correctness of the smart contract.
Oh, wow. So it's like a guarantee.
In a way it is. And of course, ongoing security testing.
Absolutely. You need to stay ahead of the bad guys.
It sounds like security has to be the top priority
It really does.
from the very beginning. Yes.
Okay, what other challenges are there?
Scalability is another big one.
What does that mean?
As more people use Diff AI
Yeah.
and more applications are built,
Mhm.
the underlying blockchain infrastructure needs to handle all those transactions.
It's all more traffic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're already seeing some blockchains struggle
Like how?
with congestion and high fees.
Oh, so it's getting expensive.
It can be.
That's not good.
No, it can be a barrier to entry.
So are there solutions for this?
There's some promising approaches being developed.
Like what?
Well, one is using layer 2 scaling solutions.
What are those?
They basically move transactions off the main blockchain
Okay.
to a separate, faster network.
So it's like a side road.
Yeah, that takes some of the load off the main highway.
That makes sense.
And there are also new consensus mechanisms being developed.
To replace proof of work.
Right. They're more efficient and scalable.
That's good to hear.
It is.
It's encouraging to see all this innovation.
It is an exciting time.
But I'm sure it can all feel a little overwhelming
Oh, absolutely.
for someone who's new to this.
It's a lot to take in.
So what advice would you give to someone who's just starting to explore Diffay?
Well, first of all, I'd say start by educating yourself.
Okay.
There are tons of great resources available online.
Like where?
Websites, blogs, articles.
You can find anything online.
You really can.
So do your research.
Yes, take the time to understand the basic concepts.
Okay.
How Diffay works, the potential benefits and risks.
Right. Got to be aware of the risks too.
Absolutely.
So start with the basics.
Yes, and maybe look into some of the real-world use cases we've talked about.
Like the lending platforms or DXs.
Exactly.
Okay, good advice. What else should people keep in mind?
Well, it's important to remember that Diffay is still a relatively young and experimental field.
Right, it's still early days.
It is. So there are inherent risks.
And you never know what could happen.
Exactly. So approach it with caution.
Don't go all in right away.
No, never invest more than you can afford to lose.
That's good advice.
And always do your due diligence.
What does that mean?
Research the projects thoroughly.
Okay.
Understand the team, the technology, the risks.
Don't just blindly trust anyone.
No, definitely not.
So be smart. Be cautious.
And have fun.
Yeah, this stuff is pretty cool.
It is.
Okay, well, that's a great place to wrap up part 1.
Sounds good.
We've covered a lot of ground,
We have.
but there's still much more to explore.
We'll dive deeper in part 2
So stay tuned.
and keep learning. Okay, so where were we?
We were talking about smart contracts.
Right, those self-executing agreements.
Yeah, can you remind us like what those are again?
Sure, think of it like this. It's a set of rules written in code,
Okay.
and they're stored on a blockchain.
Uh-huh.
So once you deploy a smart contract, it's like setting those rules in stone.
They can't be changed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what makes them so powerful.
Okay, so what were we saying about the challenges with AI agents?
Right. So the GitHub blog highlighted this issue of predictability.
And explainability.
Yeah, it's tricky because with these super complex AI models,
Uh-huh.
it can be really tough to understand exactly how they're making decisions.
So it's like they're doing their thing,
Yeah.
but we don't know why.
Right. It's like a black box.
And that's not ideal for finance.
No, not at all, because trust is so important.
Right, like I need to know why my money is being moved around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need to understand the reasoning behind those actions.
So are there ways to make these AI models more transparent?
Well, researchers are working on it.
Like what are they doing?
Some are trying to create models that can actually explain their decisions.
Oh, so you can see their thought process.
Yeah, like a step-by-step breakdown.
That would be helpful.
Others are focusing on building simpler models,
Okay.
ones that are easier to understand and audit.
So it's like finding the right balance.
Exactly, between power and transparency.
Got it. Okay, so let's switch gears a bit.
Sure.
We've been talking about the challenges.
Yeah.
But what about the advantages of DeFi?
There are many.
Like, give me some highlights.
Well, one of the main goals is to make finance more inclusive.
Okay, that sounds good.
It is, because traditional finance often excludes a lot of people.
Like who?
People who don't have access to banking services,
Oh, right.
or those who are considered high-risk borrowers.
So DeFi aims to level the playing field.
Exactly. Anyone with an internet connection can participate.
That's pretty powerful.
It's about empowering individuals.
I like that. What else?
Another big advantage is transparency.
Yeah. Okay, we talked about that a bit earlier.
Right. So because DeFi runs on public blockchains,
Uh-huh.
all transactions are recorded and can be verified by anyone.
So there's no hiding anything.
No, it's all out in the open.
That's a big difference from traditional finance.
It is. It builds trust
Right. You can see exactly where your money is going.
and how it's being used.
Okay, what else?
With AI can also be much more efficient.
How so?
Well, it cuts out a lot of the middlemen
Okay.
and automates a lot of the processes.
So things happen faster.
Yeah, and with lower fees.
That's always a good thing.
It is, so you get a more streamlined experience.
Okay, so we've got accessibility, transparency, and efficiency.
Those are some of the key benefits.
But I think it's important to see how this is actually being used.
Yeah. Let's get into some real-world examples.
Okay, so what are some of the ways DeFi is being applied today?
Well, one big area is lending and borrowing.
Okay, so how does that work in the DeFi world?
There are platforms that allow people to borrow and lend cryptocurrencies.
Without going through a bank.
Exactly. It's all peer-to-peer.
So you're connecting directly with other individuals.
Right. And the cool thing is,
Yeah.
the interest rates on these platforms can be much lower.
Than traditional banks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially for people in developing countries.
So it's a more affordable option.
It can be.
What other use cases are there?
Another big one is decentralized exchanges.
Or DEXs?
Right. These platforms let users trade cryptocurrencies directly with each other.
So no need for a centralized exchange.
Nope. Which means more privacy.
And more control over your assets.
Exactly.
That's appealing to a lot of people.
It is.
So those are two big examples, lending and borrowing and DEXs.
There are many others.
Anything else that you find particularly interesting?
Well, I'm really fascinated by the potential of AI agents for portfolio management.
Okay, so like a robo-advisor, but on steroids.
You could say that.
So how would that work?
Imagine an AI that's constantly monitoring the market,
Okay.
adjusting your portfolio based on real-time data.
So it's like having a personal financial advisor.
Yeah, but one that never sleeps.
And never takes a vacation.
Exactly.
That's pretty amazing.
It is. And it could really democratize access to sophisticated financial advice.
I see that, but we did talk about those challenges with AI.
Right. The transparency issue.
Yeah, what other hurdles do you think DeFi needs to overcome?
Well, security is a major concern.
In what way?
DeFi applications often rely on complex smart contracts,
Uh-huh.
and those can be vulnerable to bugs and exploits.
So hackers could potentially steal funds?
They could, and we've seen that happen.
Oh.
It's a real risk.
So how do we make these applications more secure?
Well, rigorous code audits are essential.
So checking the code for any vulnerabilities.
Exactly. And there are also formal verification techniques.
I've heard of those. What are they again?
They use mathematical proofs to ensure the correctness of the smart contract.
So it's like a guarantee that it's working as intended?
In a way,
And of
yeah.
course, ongoing security testing is crucial.
Absolutely. You can't just set it and forget it.
Right, you got to stay ahead of the bad guys.
Exactly.
So security is paramount.
It is.
What other challenges are there?
Well, scalability is another big one.
Remind me what that means.
So as more people use DeFi
Yeah.
and more applications are built,
Uh-huh.
the underlying blockchain infrastructure needs to be able to handle all those transactions.
Right, the more traffic, the more strain on the system.
Exactly. And some blockchains are already struggling.
With congestion and high fees.
Yeah, which can be a deterrent for new users.
So how do we solve that?
Well, there are a couple of approaches being explored.
Like what?
One is using layer 2 scaling solutions.
What are those?
They basically move some of the transactions off the main blockchain
Okay.
to a separate, faster network.
So it takes some of the load off.
Right, like adding more lanes to a highway,
I get it. And what's the other approach?
developing new consensus mechanisms.
To replace proof of work.
Exactly, ones that are more efficient and scalable.
Okay, so it sounds like there are solutions in the works.
There are a lot of smart people working on this.
That's good to hear, but I'm sure all this can feel a bit overwhelming.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Especially for someone who's new to DeFi.
It's a lot to take in.
So what advice would you give to someone who's just starting out?
Well, I'd say first and foremost, educate yourself.
Okay, where do you even begin?
There are tons of resources online,
Like where?
websites, blogs, articles, you name it.
Yeah, the internet is a treasure trove of information.
It is. So take the time to learn the basics. Understand how DeFi works, the potential benefits, and the risks involved.
Right, gotta be aware of both sides.
Absolutely. And maybe start by exploring some of the real-world use cases we've talked about.
Like those lending platforms and DEXs.
Exactly.
Okay, good advice.
What else? Well, it's important to remember that DeFi is still a pretty young and experimental field.
Right, it's still early days.
It is, so there are inherent risks.
And you never know what could happen.
Exactly. So approach it with caution.
Don't go all in right away.
No, never invest more than you can afford to lose.
That's sound advice.
And always, always do your due diligence.
What does that mean?
Research the projects thoroughly.
Okay.
Understand the team, the technology, the risks involved.
Don't just blindly trust anyone.
No, do your homework
So be smart, be cautious.
and have fun.
Yeah, DeFi is pretty exciting stuff.
It is.
So it really feels like we're just scratching the surface here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There's so much more to explore in the world of DeFi.
It's a vast and rapidly evolving landscape.
It's both exciting and a little daunting, to be honest.
I know what you mean.
There's so much potential, but also so much to learn.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, it's a constant journey of discovery.
It is, and that's why these deep dives are so valuable.
They give us a starting point.
A framework for understanding this complex world.
Right, and you've given us some great insights today.
I've tried my best.
We've learned about the different types of AI agents,
The key players like Fetch.ai,
the advantages and challenges of DeFi.
and some real-world use cases.
It's a lot to take in.
It is, but I hope it's inspired you to learn more.
It definitely has. Now, before we wrap up,
Sure.
I have one final question for you.
Okay, shoot.
We've talked a lot about the power of AI,
Yeah, the potential is incredible.
but what about the human element?
Right.
Will AI eventually replace humans in finance?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
A lot of people are worried about that.
I understand the concern, but I don't think it's a simple yes or no answer.
So you don't think AI will take over completely?
I think it's more nuanced than that.
Okay, I'm listening.
AI will definitely automate a lot of tasks.
Yeah, that's already happening.
Right, and some jobs will inevitably become obsolete.
That's the nature of progress, I guess.
It is, but I believe AI will ultimately enhance human capabilities.
More than replace them.
Exactly. It's about humans and AI working together.
Like a partnership.
Precisely.
So how do you see that playing out?
Well, AI can handle the repetitive data-driven tasks.
The stuff that humans find boring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which frees us up to focus on higher-level things.
Like what?
Strategic decision-making,
Okay.
building relationships,
Uh-huh.
creative problem-solving.
The things that AI isn't so good at.
Right, the human touch
I like that. So it's not about AI versus humans.
Right.
It's about AI and humans working together.
to create a better future.
A better financial system.
More efficient, equitable, and transparent.
That's a vision I can get behind.
Oh, too.
Well, that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's been a pleasure.
We've learned so much about DeFi and the role of AI,
It's a fascinating field.
and we hope you feel inspired to continue exploring this exciting new world.
Keep learning, keep experimenting.
And who knows, maybe you'll be the one building the next groundbreaking DeFi application.
The possibilities are endless.
That's right. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.